Welcome back to another video of me talking about a TV show you have either never heard of or you completely forgot they existed. Today I am talking about Martin Mysteries, which was made by the same people who made Totally Spies. The two shows even had a crossover episode. Martin Mysteries is about a 16-year-old boy called Martin Mystery, who alongside his stepsister Diana and a caveman called Java work for the Center, an organization that protects and investigates the supernatural. I mean, with a name like Martin Mystery, there's only so many professions you could go into. Imagine he was Martin Mystery, the gardener. The show was made by Marathon Media Group and Image Entertainment Corporation. The show had 3 seasons with 66 episodes and aired from 2003 to 2006. The show was originally an Italian comic, and the key changes from that are Java can talk, and they switched Diana from being his fiancée to his stepsister. The first episode of the series starts in the cafeteria of the boarding school Torrington Academy. Here we get introduced to our main 3 characters, Martin, Diana, and Java. One of Martin's defining personality trait is his attempting and failing to hit on every woman he interacts with, his classmates, his boss, and in one episode, the woman whose husband has been kidnapped by a random ice creature, and he was like, "You might be a widow, I'm going to slide in those DMs." But this was made in 2000, so there was no DMs. He will slide up to her on a message board, I'm assuming. Here we see Martin try to flirt with these 2 girls, and he fails immensely due to the vast amount of chocolate in his teeth. Then his stepsister Diana walks up to him and tells him he's always dirty and messy, which is immediately proven right when he spills chocolate all over Diana. They then make a bet that Martin can't stay clean for the rest of the day. The loser of this bet has to massage Java's feet. Then Martin's U-Watch goes off. The U-Watch is a device that allows the Center to communicate with Martin and his friends. It allows them to find random portals that the Center sends to them to retrieve Martin and co. The watch also has the Legend X, which has information on every single paranormal event and monster in history, and a scanner that scans weird material. They also get gadgets out of it. It does a lot. The U-Watch shows a portal in the fridge. Somehow no one notices 3 people strolling into a fridge, including like the 7-foot Java. They walk through the portal. We are then introduced to Billy, an alien who works at the Center. His main role is to deliver info to the gang through portals, and then he immediately leaves. They go to the main office where we meet the leader of the Center, Mum, which stands for Mystery Organization Manager. Martin then immediately ruins her experiment. He does this every episode. I don't know why they keep letting him in the lab. Personally, I'd ban him from the room after the 50th time of him doing this. Like, he could retrieve his missions via pigeon for all I care. In this episode, he drops a glass container and she says he just set her cloning experiment back 6 months. They then get given their mission and told to head to northern France. They make their way to a small library where the first victim, Nellie, disappeared. They find her father distraught. According to her father, one moment she was there and then she just vanished. Martin suggests maybe she was kidnapped by an invisible man, and Diana calls that a terrible idea. They do this in most episodes. Martin suggests who could be the culprit and Diana calls it ridiculous. Martin is wrong the majority of the time, but Diana's reasoning for Martin being wrong is just as dumb. She always acts like monsters and aliens. Aliens, and the paranormal creatures don't exist. In one episode, they find a spell book and there's a teacher missing. Martin suggests that maybe it's witches, and Diana says, why would there be witches at a school? That's a silly suggestion. But that is a very reasonable conclusion to come to based on the things that they found. She has that witches and magic don't exist, but in the episode before, they were literally fighting a dark druid, which is practically the cousin of the witch. The books in the library start oozing green slime. The U-Watch scans it and tells them it is bog goo. They then hear a blood-curdling scream. They all run towards it and find a woman on the floor screaming about how some creature stole her child. They then see the mysterious figure running past carrying her son. They chase down the creature, but it escapes into a maggot hole. There is no better way to describe what this is. It's a hole made out of maggots. Java then whips out a book he apparently had the whole time from the library. Martin starts to read it with gloves so he doesn't lose the bet that they made earlier. And it turns out the book is about the creature that they're dealing with. What a coincidence. And the kids were taken by the boogeyman, who is known to take away bad kids. They decide to gather all the remaining kids in town so they can lure the creature out. I cannot believe that their parents let these random strangers use their children as bait. Great parenting there. The kids are misbehaving and the monster shows up. Java tries to stop it, but to no avail. The monster flees. They try catching it, so it turns into a pile of maggots to escape, and it makes a portal to the bog world. The three of them jump into the bog portal. They try and locate the missing children using their screams, but they can't find them, and then the fog surrounds them. Java and Diana then disappear, and Martin gets dragged underground by roots. All three of them wake up in the boogeyman's lair, where they discover the missing children. They then encounter the boogeyman, who says that they are naughty children and they are never going to leave. Diana refutes his claim. Then the boogeyman reminds her that she did not do her literature homework, and then Diana yields. He then leaves them, presumably to get more naughty children. Then a sea of maggots start chasing after them all. They all climb up a tree to try and escape it through a portal in the sky. They get out just in the nick of time to find the townspeople trying to fight the boogeyman. Martin then hops in an old car, simultaneously destroying someone else's car, and then tries to run over the creature. Doesn't work. They return to the library where they found the book to try and locate the missing pages from inside the book. The boogeyman starts to attack them. Diana figures out they have to return him to the boogeyman book to capture him. They then seal him away, and it all ends well. Martin tries to take credit for everything when Mum shows up, and somehow this entire episode involving slime, Martin somehow stayed clean, so Diana has to give Java a foot rub. This is a good first episode in my opinion. Gives you all the needed information to understand the show. It tells you who the main characters are, shows you each of their different types of personalities and their relationship dynamics. It shows you their job and how they complete it by showing you the most commonly used gadgets, such as portals to the center, and Martin's U-Watch. What more could you want from a pilot? The main reason I started watching Martin Mystery is that a month ago I rewatched Totally Spies, and they had a crossover episode, and they're made by the same company. I had never heard of this show up until now. They presented Martin way better in the Totally Spies episode. Also, in the crossover episode, Java and Diana weren't in it, even though they do all of their missions together, which I found weird. Martin was far more likable in the Totally Spies episode, in my opinion, but that might be because he spoke less and he was not the main focus. Maybe I would like Martin more if he was a side character in his own show. The first episode mainly focuses on Martin because he's the main character, duh. So I decided to watch a few more episodes so I can further look into the other two main members of the Martin Mystery Gang, Diana and Java. In most episodes, Diana is just there to call Martin stupid, and sometimes she gets kidnapped or used as bait, and then she gets kidnapped after being bait. This episode's different. In this episode, Martin takes a back seat and the spotlight is on Diana to lead the team in The Vampire's Return. The episode starts like any other. Martin and Diana are at school, but shockingly, slacker Martin is in the library, not surprisingly, doing it to impress a girl, and it does not work. They then get summoned to the center. Mum is trying to retrieve the sacred, one-of-a-kind scroll inside of this box. Martin destroys it. Mum, mad, then sends them to Paris for their mission. Again, I don't know why she lets them in the room. In Paris, there have been multiple mysterious disappearances. They go to this theme park where most of the recent disappearances have occurred, and they get jumped by a monster who ultimately flees. Other than an apple with 500-year-old saliva, they find nothing at the amusement park. They walk around Paris until they find this board shop. They walk up to the counter and they see a picture of 3 people, and one of them is the person who attacked them in the tunnel at the amusement park. Then asks the store clerk about the picture. Apparently the man that attacked them is the store clerk's best friend, and the woman in the picture is the store clerk's girlfriend. The man then gets really defensive about his girlfriend and tells them all to leave. The 3 of them wait around to see if anything interesting happens. Something interesting does happen. The girlfriend admits to changing the store clerk's friend into a vampire servant, and then turns the clerk into a vampire servant. I would like to point out this means that his best friend went into the tunnel of love with his friend's girlfriend and ended up being turned into a vampire servant. That seems like karma for a lack of loyalty to the friendship. The vampire lady starts talking about some guy called Gerard. She then hypnotizes Martin and then transports them away, leaving only Martin's U-Watch on the floor. Diana uses the U-Watch to contact the center, and Billy picks up and comes to their aid in a creepy house the vampires are rumored to live in. The U-Watch tells them that Martin is actually a descendant of Gerard, the man she mentioned earlier, earlier, and that both of them share a unique gene, so Martin can be used to revive the vampire clan. They then find a secret staircase to the sewer. They find the vampires and her servants along with Martin. Martin has been turned into a vampire servant and seems to be quite happy. Diana decided to wait and to go after them when they're asleep to save Martin. They try saving Martin. Martin does not want to be saved. Diana, Java and Billy get captured. They wake up and Diana tries to use the U-Watch to escape, but struggles. I would like to know, why is Martin the only one with any helpful equipment? Throughout the show, they say that Java is a technophobic person because he's a caveman, so he doesn't like technology. So that explains him, but it makes no sense why Diana does not get anything. Oh, why didn't she get a U-Watch? She gets no equipment. They could at least give her a water gun with holy water. That would, but no. Diana uses the U-Watch. It takes a few attempts, but she eventually gets it right and they all escape. They get to Martin and they just run away with him this time. They don't try and ask him anything. The vampires hunt them down and they get Martin back. They start opening the portal to get the vampire clan. Diana figures out that if they break the window, the sunlight will get in and it will kill the main vampire. It does kill her and it saves Martin and the other servants, and no vampire clan is resurrected today. This episode showed Diana as completely capable of completing a mission without Martin. It basically shows as long as you have the U-Watch, you can complete the mission. So you would conclude that maybe after this mission that they'd give Diana something. No, this changes nothing. They go back to what they normally do of Diana just being there to call Martin stupid and sometimes getting kidnapped. There is no character growth. Wish there were. So one thing that really annoys me about Martin Mystery, Java and Diana don't really do much other than follow him around and occasionally help. For a majority of the missions, if you took Diana and Java out of it wouldn't change anything. I can understand why they weren't in the Totally Spy crossover episode. This is the return of the beast. It is the origin story of Java joining the gang. The episode starts with Diana and Martin arguing. How surprising. These two would argue about the colour of a blue whale. It turns out Martin has not studied for a test, so he decides to set all of the frogs free to have the test postponed. He ends up getting detention for doing this, but somehow so does Diana. She did nothing. Whilst they are trying to catch the frogs, they end up getting summoned by the centre. Mum tells them there has been a number of strange sightings in New York, and they manage to get an interview with one of the victims after catching the creature that attacked her. This is where they meet Java. He is the creature that attacked the woman they're about to interview. Martin decides that Java would be helpful, so he releases him. Those two hit it off immediately. They decide to bring Java to the woman that he attacked. Understandably, she freaks out. They decide to give him a makeover and a haircut, and that apparently makes things better because the woman just let him in the house. The woman tells them that she saw a purple hole open up on the sidewalk, and that is when some creature, she means Java, crawled out. Then Java screams from the other room where they find said purple hole is trying to suck Java back into it, but Martin and Diana save him. They all leave the woman's house, the woman's apartment, and they bump into Billy. Billy tells them that the number of sightings are getting more frequent and the entities that are coming out are much larger than Java and way more aggressive. Diana does some math stuff to figure out where the next entity should appear, and by her calculations it should show up in a subway tunnel. Once there, a giant creature leaps out of a purple hole and tries to eat Martin. Java saves him, but this results with him being taken back with the entity. They find a dinosaur nail on the floor where the two of them vanished, which causes them to remember that the woman from earlier mentioned a lot of break-ins in the dinosaur museum. Diana and Martin go to investigate to find that the Jurassic fossil collection in the museum has been stolen. They then get sucked up by the purple hole and spat out in a recreation of a Jurassic world. They follow the tire marks until they find an old laboratory. Inside, they discover someone is recreating dinosaurs with the fossils that they stole from the museum. They then see Java strapped to a board and they save him. Yay! They then immediately get captured themselves and dangled in the air. We get introduced to the villain of this episode, who this time is not a ghoul, a goblin, a spirit, but a regular guy. I mean, not that regular. He does look like a wannabe cyborg from Teen Titans, and he is also intentionally causing trouble with the dinosaurs. So this time, he's just a human, I should say. He then leaves them to be eaten by his newly grown dinosaurs. Java saves them yet again by tripping up the dinosaur. Also, apparently these dinosaurs spit acid. Martin tricks one of the dinos into spitting acid on this geode that they used to make the dinosaurs. Then the place starts breaking apart, and yet again, Java saves the day by attacking this evil scientist. Java then gets a job as a school janitor and helps Diana and Martin clean up the frogs. And that is the story of how Java joined Martin's mystery team. I like this little origin story for Java. It showed he always wanted to save people from the moment that he was aware that people need to be saved. Java is the only one of the main three with an origin story. They briefly mentioned Martin's first mission was with a shapeshifter in the episode Love Spell in the Underworld, but that's it. And from the way that story is told in that episode, apparently Martin joined the center first, then Diana. I thought they joined together up until that point. I wish they showed them both joining the team. Also, how did Martin and Diana get back either the same day or the day after? Those two were gone, but it seemed the second that Diana and Martin leave their school, time seems to pause, and then they could have like a 3-day long mission where Diana gets kidnapped for the day and somehow they're back in time for their science test. This show is just a high-tech supernatural with less death, or it could be described as if Johnny Bravo took up monster hunting. Martin even has the same hair as him. The best character in the show is Billy. He does his job, then leaves. Example of this being when Martin and his team got swallowed by Leviathan, he opens a portal into Leviathan, tells Martin and his team the needed information, then leaves them in there. He's like, I do not get paid to save you. I did notice a lot of these episodes would not have happened if people stopped trying to build on sacred land or they stopped trying to steal from ancient deities. Leave things alone. Stop touching things. A little problem I had with this show, all the women in the show are either viewed as potential love interests for Martin or they are there to keep him in line. Even Mom, his boss, Martin hit on in one episode. But the show was made in the early 2000s, so don't expect much. It is a bit disappointed considering it's coming from the same place that made Totally Spies. The reason I feel like this show has been all but forgotten about is that it's living in the shadow of Totally Spies for too long. It never got a footing of its own. Totally Spies had merch. Martin Mystery had its time. It ran for 3 seasons. It just ran its course. And that will be all for this video. I hope you all had a fun time in diving into the world of Martin Mystery. Bye!